Imagine being a kid who's lived in 6 countries on 4 continents before turning 13. That was me. And it might just explain why I grew up to be creative. Hi, I'm Danny Gregory, and I am endlessly curious about the magic of creativity, where it comes from, why some people seem to have it in spades, and how my roller coaster childhood might hold some answers. My story is pretty complicated. I was born in London, then we moved to Pittsburgh with my first stepfather when I was 5, and then we moved to Canberra, Australia. And then I was shipped off alone to live with my grandparents in Lahore, Pakistan. And then we moved to Israel, where we lived first on a kibbutz, and then in a little town, and then we finally settled in Brooklyn when I was 13. But by the time I finished college, I'd attended almost 20 different schools in 4 languages. Oh, and my mother was divorced for the 3rd time. It was exhausting, no doubt. But there's an unexpected twist to this story. All that upheaval and change, it fueled something powerful in me. That constant flux became the foundation of my creativity. It shaped how I see and how I interact with the world in ways that I'm only now beginning to understand. Each of these moves was a crash course in observation and adaptation. You learn to fit in by observing what all the other kids do and say, how they dress, what they're into, how they speak, what music and sports and snacks they like. And being in this constant state of alertness, it's like a CrossFit gym for your creative muscles. But you never really fit in. And always being the new kid means that you're perpetually on the outside looking in. And I felt like an outsider, like an alien, pressing my nose against the glass while everybody else was on the inside. And this outsider status, it gives you a unique lens. You're less prone to stereotyping. You become more sensitized to your environment, what's going on. And you just don't take stuff for granted. You just don't think you know until you see. And it's lonely, but it's also a catalyst for creativity. And eventually you might give up on fitting in and you start forging your own identity. And that is an act of great creativity in itself. When reality becomes a bit too much, creativity becomes more than just a hobby. It is a survival strategy. And for me, it manifested in lots of different ways. Writing and illustrating my own books, and making up songs and drawing maps and acting out scenes and playing all the characters. And I set up a lab full of test tubes, and I took apart radios and motors, and I loved building secret hideaways. I even created imaginary friends. Most of them were sort of calm, gentle, all-knowing Obi-Wan Kenobi kinds of adults. And they weren't just pastimes, they were lifelines. In a world where everything was constantly changing, my imagination was the one place that I had control. And let's not forget about the grown-ups in this equation. When you're a kid surrounded by adults who are making big decisions about your life, you become hyper-aware of their behavior. And I spent a lot of time around my various parents and their friends and their lovers trying to figure them out. They had a lot of power in my life, so I couldn't take them for granted. But they were super mysterious, and so I had to use my powers of observation and imagination a lot to explain their behavior. And this constant observation and analysis, it sharpens your perception. And you're not just seeing the world, you're trying to understand it. You're trying to find patterns in this chaos. And look, my story is an odd one, but I bet a lot of this applies to you too. Creativity can come from anywhere. Maybe you grew up in the same house your whole life, but maybe you had parents who encouraged your imagination. Or maybe you faced other kinds of challenges that forced you to think outside the box. The point is, creative talent isn't some magical gift that was bestowed upon some chosen few by some mysterious divine power in the clouds. It's a skill that we all have. We've all survived through thousands of generations, and we're the descendants of those people who were the most resourceful, the most observant, the most creative, and we've been shaped by our experiences, and we've been nurtured by our choices. For me, creativity was my lifeline. It kept me sane in a world that was constantly changing. And now it's how I make sense of the world, how I solve problems, how I express myself. So here's my question to you. Where did your creativity come from? What experiences shaped your imagination? Drop your story in the comment below. I'd love to hear them. And remember, whether your childhood was as chaotic as mine or as stable as a rock, your creativity is valid, it's valuable, and it's uniquely yours. Embrace it, nurture it, and let it shine. Thanks for watching. Until next time, keep creative. Here are a few other easy things that you can do to support your creativity, okay? 1, subscribe to this channel, and then you'll know the next time that I make a video. And I do a couple of them every week. And 2, get my newsletter. I write an essay every Friday that's kind of like this video, only in words, in an email. And people seem to like getting it, maybe because it's free. And 3, watch another video. Thanks very much. See you later.